Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Masamichi Yabuki of Japan is a world champion again at 32. And this is in the light flyweight division because he knocked out Sivenathi Nontshinga in 9 rounds in Japan earlier today. Because of the time difference, it was shown in the UK sort of only midday roughly. But this is a great achievement for a guy who, when he fought Kenshiro Taraji back in 2022, he got knocked out in 3 rounds. And that was in defence of his WBC light flyweight title. And people were saying, well, he's 30, probably the end. So for him to go on a little win streak, all the fights have been in Japan, to take on Nontshinga, who, has been touted as being a terrific fighter. He's a big puncher. But Yabuki himself is a very, very hard puncher. This was his 17th win, 16 KOs. He's got 4 defeats on his record, 2 inside the distance. But there's life in the old dog yet, as they say. And this was an excellent performance. Whenever he hit Nontshinga, he was shaking him, or at least making him a little bit cautious. Whereas when Nontshinga hit Yabuki, even though he's got those 2 stoppage defeats on his record, didn't look to me like he was particularly stung. Nontshinga now falls to 13 wins with 10 KOs. For the real lower weight divisions, these are quite high percentage KO percentages. And he's now been stopped twice in his 2 defeats. And they've been in his last 3 fights, because back in 2023, November, less than a year ago, he lost to Adrian Curiel. He got flattened in 2 rounds. Then he came back, went over to, I think it was in Mexico, fought Curiel and knocked him out in 10 rounds. And now he's gone over to Japan and he's got knocked out by Yabuki. The one thing you can say about this fellow is recently he's been travelling a lot because he cut his teeth in his home country of South Africa. But at 25, he can come again, because it's not old, is it? Especially when you look at Yabuki at 32. He does seem to. He hasn't got a bad chin. He's just not a great chin. Do you know what I mean? And he is very aggressive, Nontshinga, and I think that kind of played into Yabuki's hands pretty much, because in the opening couple of rounds, I think it was the second round, there was a left hook by Yabuki that seemed to sort of shake Nontshinga and push him backwards. In the early rounds, Yabuki looked like the sharper puncher. He looked like a half a punch ahead, like he was a bit more disciplined, held his feet a bit more. Nontshinga moving a bit more, a little bit more backwards movement. Wasn't running, not by any means. But he was trying to slip and slide, whereas Yabuki was content to sort of feint, stand sort of square on and feint, rely on the feints to offset Nontshinga, and it was successful for the most part. That's not to say Nontshinga wasn't having some success, but like I say, he was shaken by a left hook in that second round. And then when we got to the 5th, even though I'd given most of the first 4 rounds, 3 of them maybe, to Yabuki, in the 5th, Nontshinga started to get a bit more aggressive and started to move forward with a bit more purpose and let his punches go a bit more. Now, that's great, but the thing is, of course, you might leave yourself open to counters. And Yabuki was very, very disciplined and wasn't really wasting any punches. He was landing good straight punches and hooks, and he was firing in, 2s and 3s. But not going wild. There was absolutely nothing wild about him. With Nontshinga, he was a bit looser. He was a bit more. There were a few more risks being taken. And then the fight sort of slipped into kind of a bit of a chess match. I suppose in some respects it was a chess match anyway. When you think about it, there were an awful lot of feints there, an awful lot of, 3, 4, 5 second periods where they were looking at each other. And trying to find a way in, like they were trying to navigate their way through a maze almost. But it kind of slipped into that. Right, the middle rounds were rather repetitive. And that was until the 8th round, right at the end of the 8th round, when Yabuki clipped Nontshinga with a big sort of chopping, almost like a guillotine right hand. They're both orthodox fighters, by the way, and stung him badly, and he sort of reeled back. But here's the interesting thing. Yabuki had the wherewithal to sort of make it a combination. It wasn't like one single punch. It was, he came back, he fired another right hand, which clipped Nontshinga behind the ear, pushed him up sideways on, and he sort of staggered back, not really knowing where he was. And then I think there was a sort of cuffing hook and then another right hand that put him on the floor. And that was at the end of the round. So Nontshinga gets up and he looks pretty busted up, pretty badly damaged. But it's at the end of the round. And in the 9th round, he came out obviously thinking that I'm going to fight fire with fire, because he went straight at Yabuki. And what again was firing lots of punches. They weren't daft punches either. There was a right hook to the body in there. You could tell he was thinking. But Yabuki was quite content to, hold his feet. He did move back a little bit, actually, probably with the benefit of hindsight. He was moving back a bit more in the 9th and final round than he had done through the whole fight. But he was kind of setting a trap, waiting for Nontshinga to come forward. And when Nontshinga did come forward, overcomes the right hand again and puts him over for a second time. I don't know whether it was below his eye, but Nontshinga had a cut below his eye. Blood was coming down. He gets up. Yabuki goes after him. Nontshinga hanging on for dear life. The first knockdown of the 9th round, which would be the second knockdown of the fight, happened sort of pretty much near a corner. Nontshinga's just grabbing and holding, trying to grab and hold. Can't hang on. He's trying to move. Again, it weren't really happening because Yabuki moving forward with a lot of precision. He was not going wild. He was firing lots of punches, but they were very educated punches. He clipped Yabuki again with an overhand right. Yabuki clipped Nontshinga again with the overhand right. Nontshinga hit the floor again. He just didn't have his legs under him. And that was that, really. The referee jumps in, stops it before Nontshinga gets to his feet. Good decision. Good bit of refereeing. So once again, we have Masamichi Yabuki as a world champion, and deservedly so. Like I said, he previously held one of the belts, and now he's got this. Now he's got the IBF belt. I mean, he's a good fighter, and at 32, you got to wonder, how many more fights has he got in him? But on the evidence of this, he's not going anywhere. I mean, it was an impressive stuff indeed. And at 25, maybe Nontshinga can come back, but with 2 stoppage defeats, his last 3, he's obviously kind of damaged goods a bit. It's down to him whether he wants to put those behind him and learn from his mistakes, or whether he wants to come back, or whether he wants to retire. I don't know. It's up to him. It's all down to how much desire, how much motivation you got. But anyway, if you didn't see this fight, it is on YouTube. Go and have a look and tell me what you think. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you like this video. Hit the like button, do all that good stuff. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Thank you as always for your time, and we will speak again soon. Bye for now.